It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I had the privilege to interview an NFL free agent kicker, Craig Peterson. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to play professional football?
It's actually quite of a unique story. Given my background and everything like that, I started out playing soccer when I was young and up until my college career, and then I stopped playing when I went to college. It wasn't until actually after college I graduated, and then we were watching preseason games out here in Albany. Just so ironic how it seems to be I'm playing for the Albany Empire now, but just a couple friends got together watching an NFL preseason game with the. And, kicker missed a couple field goals. One of them was a 50-yarder. And I said, you know what? I could have probably hit a 50-yard field goal. And, my friends called me out. We walked over to Albany High that day, and I ended up hitting a 50-yarder. And ever since then, I kind of never looked back.
Can you talk about, of course, your college time at state of New York?
Yeah, so I went to Cortland State, which is about 30 minutes south of Syracuse. For those of you who don't know really where Cortland is, it's a small Division III school. Not really known to be a great football program or anything like that, but I actually didn't even play football. I tried out my senior year. I tried to become a walk-on, and nothing really transpired from it. Or from that at least. There was no more college. I was done. Obviously I graduated. And I ran out of eligibility. I actually tried to go back to school to play football when I knew I actually wanted to play, and it just didn't, happen. Once you go through 10 full-time semesters of eligibility, the NCAA says, okay, that's it. You can't play anymore. So obviously, I was done with my eligibility, so I had to take a different route, but. With Cortland, man, I mean, it was a great time, great experience. I do, however, find the fact that I went there part of the puzzle that was put together to get me where I am today, because I had a friend, Matt Crawley, who I used to live with, who I met at Cortland, and I would have never known him. And if I never met him, I would have never met my kicking coach, who I still have today, Sam Watts. So if it wasn't for going to school at Cortland and quote unquote failing, that was kind of what fueled my fire. Then really go at being a kicker 100% and really giving it my all and spending all the time and effort into just kicking and making that the one sport, obviously football, my main priority. And that's kind of how I guess that came up into something that it is now, by going to school there. But I take away a lot of great things from SUNY Cortland. It is a good school. It's known as a teaching school. A lot of kids come out of there and become teachers, phys ed teachers, all that good stuff. I just was one of the kids that went there for different reasons and came out with a completely different job and career.
Can you talk about, of course, how you got into becoming a professional football player?
Yeah, it was actually 2014 was my first stint in being able to be being a professional football player. I was actually invited to training camp with the Ottawa Redblacks of the CFL. Like I said, that was 2014, and that very surreal situation, very just intense environment. Just being flown out into Canada. I remember I had to get my passport expedited because you need a passport to go, and that's what they said when they sent me the email. We're going to bring you into training camp. Do you have a passport? I was like, no. So I had to get my passport expedited, which took a few weeks. But I was able to go out there, an invite to training camp. I actually competed against Brett, for those of you who don't know, he kicked for the Dallas Cowboys for, I believe, a year. And he also was in the CFL for a few years, had a stint with the Cleveland Browns. So that was when he just came out of college. And I believe he went to Nebraska. I think he was a Cornhusker. So seeing him there, I'd already been in a few mini camps in the CFL already, one with the Edmonton Eskimos and another one with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I actually met him at the Winnipeg Blue Bomber mini camp, which was held in Bradenton at IMG Academy. And it was just, it was very intense, being just me and him being in camp. A couple of the guys got injured, which is, I was very fortunate enough to be called from a workout that I had flew down to Florida for the Ottawa Redblacks the year prior. So they remember who I was. I must have been put on their board, and I performed pretty well, and it was good enough to get me an invite to training camp, given the fact that they had a few guys go down due to injuries. So with all that and being able to be in that atmosphere and in that environment, like I said, it's very intense. But I stepped up. I stepped up when I needed to, and we tied in field goals. We both went 9 for 10 in field goals, and my punting actually a little bit better than his. My hang times and my directionals, and then as well as my kickoffs. My kickoffs were a little bit better than his as well. I didn't get the nod to play in Montreal for the preseason game, unfortunately, because Brett had the experience, and I don't take anything away from him. It was just one of those things that needed to happen, and there's nothing I could do about that. There's a little bit of politics involved there, and you can't really beat politics with talent. So it's just one of those things that I had to swallow and just move on, keep getting better. The only thing that did come from that, however, was they let me stay. They said, listen, we really like you. You performed well. We are going to start Brett next week, but we want to keep you around. So I was able to finish out training camp with Ottawa, which was nice, but it was just, it was one of those times where even though I had technically won, I didn't win, you know what I mean? And that kind of sucked. That was a feeling that I'll never forget. And I took that with me and I used that to my advantage. I used that drive, really. I should have gotten the job there. I didn't get it. And, I'm a big believer in the person should play. The people who perform the best, whether it's at practice or a tryout or workout, whatever it may be, I believe the best players should play. And that wasn't the case. And I just had to take that with a grain of salt. I went back home, kept working on my craft, and then finally at Tampa Bay Storm is when I got my next opportunity.
Can you talk about, of course, going to Tampa Bay Storm and getting that opportunity and putting on the jersey and being a first professional?
Yeah, that was a phenomenal, extraordinary day, of my life that I'll never forget. We played the Gladiators at home for my first game. I had to compete against one in camp, and then it was that. I feel like God works in mysterious ways, man, because I almost thought I did perform better than him, eventually getting the job after training camp in Tampa. But there was an inkling that I had this feeling where I just felt like, it's going to happen again. This may happen again, even though I outperformed him. I still might lose it because he actually played with the Tampa Bay Storm the year prior. And I want to say 2 years, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But he definitely played with them the year before, and he didn't have a really bad season. So I'm like, whatever happens, happens, right? I did everything that I could to get on this team and start my career essentially. And, I left it all on the field. And Derek Brooks talked to me. Jeff Gooch talked to me, the assistant vice president, the head coach, Lawrence Samuels, and our offensive coordinator, Chris Hovan, I believe it was at the time. Yeah, Chris Hovan. Excuse me. And they talked to me. They sat me down. It was actually a bit of a relief. They said, you're a guy. We're going with you. You had a great camp. we appreciate you coming to the open tryout that they had. It was just, by chance I go in there, I perform well, and then they brought me into camp thinking that I could be good enough to get the job, and I ended up doing just that. So it's a very, very just extraordinary moment in my life, being able to put that jersey on, man, a Peterson jersey for the first time, and be a part of a great franchise, man. The Tampa Bay Storm, geez, I mean, they've been out there for 25 plus years. And, being able to have that opportunity and play with them and be a part of something like that was a once in a lifetime, feeling in my life, where it's just like that. It's like snap. It's like, wow, I'm really doing this, like this really happened. And I put together all this body of work and put in all this time and effort over the years to get to that position. And I finally reached that, one of those goals that I had. And it was just it's a phenomenal feeling to have, to be able to put that jersey on, go out there, perform, and not just perform, but play at a high level. I think I was nervous. I had butterflies. I had all the feelings going into that game, because putting on that pad and put on those pads and that helmet and the jersey and just everything, and being a part of the fireworks and the flames and all that stuff coming out. It's cool, man. It was very surreal. And, I took every advantage of it. I really did, because I also had a perfect game, my first game as well. And it showed me how quick that first game, it showed me how quick your job can be taken from you. Because after that first game, like I said, I had a perfect game, but the other kicker didn't. I think he missed 2 or 3 extra points. He actually got cut after that game. And I had noticed that when because everyone looks at the transactions and whatnot every week. And I noticed he got cut after that game. And that was a mental note I took, right? We gotta, prepare like every game is our last, right? So that's kind of how I took that. I was like, anything can happen at any game, whether it's an injury, God forbid, or you don't play well, you don't have a good game, because you're not going to be perfect. We just be as perfect as we possibly can. And that's what I tried to do. And that's why that my rookie year was one of the best years I've ever had. And, it was me knowing the circumstances and putting my best foot forward.
What was your time like at Spokane Empire?
Spokane was a very interesting situation. I remember when, I believe it was Adam Shackelford, who was the head coach at the time for the Spokane Empire, formerly the Spokane Shock, currently the Spokane Shock. I was coming off of a season where I was playing for the Tampa Bay Storm in 2016. It was over. I signed, so I wasn't signed anywhere. Their season starts a little bit earlier in the IFL. It starts like mid-February for camp and whatnot. And Adam Shackelford hit me up. He said, "Hey, Craig, we need a kicker, and I want you to be our guy." And without any hesitation, I said, "Of course." I said, "Yeah, I'll come out there to Spokane." I've never been to Washington really before that, so that was a pretty cool experience. Nonetheless, it's right by Gonzaga, which I didn't even know until I got there, that Gonzaga was so close to where we lived. So that was also kind of fun. But Spokane, I believe I only played 7 games. And the reason behind it was, we're always trying to move to the next level, right? We're always trying to get film in the arena leagues and move up. Some guys can make a career out of it. But, mostly kickers, I'm always trying to get to that next level. I know I have what it takes. I've been there before. I was with Ottawa. I know I belong there. I've competed with, some of the best talent out there and some of the best kickers in this country. So I think after my 3rd game, I went out to a combine called the Zoners Combine out in Arizona. And that's you're competing against the best kickers in the country. Kickers, punters, snappers, they're all there. And I showed out. I performed very well in front of the NFL and CFL scouts that were there. And I got a lot of interest from the Hamilton Tiger Cats scout. He was also the special teams coordinator at the time. So he had spoke with me. He showed a lot of interest, like I said. We exchanged numbers. And I believe 4 weeks later, he gave me a shout and said, no, 2 weeks later, I'm sorry. He gave me a shout and said, hey, we want to invite you to minicamp up here in Hamilton. I said, awesome, sure, I'm in, you know. So they flew me out there. I obviously had to take a game off in Spokane. So I don't remember who they brought in, but they brought in another kicker for a game. And I was having a pretty good season as well with Spokane. I was actually having a really good season with Spokane. It just so happened that I had another opportunity, and of course I'm going to take it to play at the next level. So I showed out in minicamp playing against guys like Jordan Gay, who played for the Buffalo Bills for a couple of years, Sergio Castillo, who's also been in the NFL with the Jets, Alex Teixeira was with the Cowboys for a quick stint. Just guys, big name guys coming out there. Pat Clark was another one actually, who people know in the arena leagues. He went to the University of Buffalo as well. And I showed out. I showed out there in front of all the coaches, the owners. And that was a pretty cool experience as well, being there during camp against really good talent. And I came out pretty much. It was me and Sergio were like neck and neck, but I came out either the top kicker out of 7 kickers that they had in there, or if not the second best. But I was right up there with Sergio. So I think it was 3 weeks later after that, after my 7th game with Spokane, I got a call from Hamilton saying they wanted to sign me. So that was pretty cool. And then I ended up leaving the Spokane Empire. I took a lot of good memories away from there. I met a lot of new friends, a lot of new teammates. And there was a couple games I had there were some really, really neat, interesting games that I had with Spokane. And I'm very, very thankful and grateful to have those times. I actually hit a franchise record 56-yard field goal in Spokane, which was pretty cool in my short time being there. So it was a lot of fun.
That's pretty amazing that you had such great achievements. What was your time like with the Carolina Cougars?
Cobras? Carolina
Yes,
Cobras?
Cobras.
So that was my first year in the NAL. And after training camp with Hamilton, Sergio did end up. I didn't have the best camp, but I definitely had. I thought it was a good enough camp to get it, but like I said, you can't really beat politics. And I take nothing away from Sergio. He's a great kicker. He performed well, and essentially he did get the job. So, that's just how it is sometimes. Experience usually trumps a kid coming in there only off of a few years of experience with arena football and no college experience at all. So, hats off to Sergio, and I wish him the best of luck. But it was just one of those times it didn't happen. So after that happened, I went home, started keeping on perfecting the craft, try to get better, learn from my mistakes, what I did right, what I did wrong. And went from there. And I had Billy back, currently the head coach of the Spokane Shock, gave me a shout and wanted me to come play for the Carolina Cobras in the National Arena League. So, of course, I said, why not? I hadn't heard anything from anybody else. And the funny thing of what I was talking about earlier, having a couple of good games with Spokane, we actually played a team that Billy Back was coaching at the time in the Wichita Falls. And I think I was 3 for 3 that game, field goals. I hit like a 35-yarder, a 37-yarder, and a 45-yarder. And I was, I believe, 6 for 6 on my extra points. And I actually had a chance to win the game with a 55-yard field goal with 2 seconds on the clock. And I swear this ball was dead straight. We all put our hands up, looked like it was going in, and it just clips the top of the Jumbotron. So it was unfortunate. We ended up going into overtime and losing into overtime because we tried to go for 2 instead of kicking the extra point after I made 1 extra point. We tried to go for 2 to end it, and it didn't happen. Like Billy Bag remembered that game that I had against him, and he gave me a shout and said, come kick for the Cobras. So taking off from there, Cobras was a breakout year I had. I was special teams player of the year that year. I was 3rd in points in the entire league. I was first in points on the team, and I was first team. I was first team All NAL, and that was a great year. We won the championship. We were also NAL champions as well. We beat Columbus Lions, I believe, 66-8 in the finals. So we dominated that year. I still hold the record from that year. I believe it was the most deuces in a season with 27, and the most deuces in a game, which is 4. So just a great overall year for me. Obviously I can't thank Billy back enough for having me out there and play with him, and just develop more friendships, meet more teammates, have more lifelong friends, just keep continuing my career, just keep playing at a high level and continuing to perfect.
What was the feeling like whenever you got to put on the Carolina Cobras jersey and wear it during the game?
So when we finally had our roster after training camp, we had this game. It wasn't even really a game. It was more like a scrimmage between our team. It was just our team going back and forth with each other. And we had a lot of fans come to that scrimmage, which was really neat. And you could just tell that the environment there was different. The hype was real. You know what I mean? We were coming in there. We were an expansion team. It was our first year in the league. We had a lot of guys that played with each other, and I had only played with a few of the guys that were on the team, but most of those guys have played with each other on teams that Billy has coached. So that was a really neat situation going into, because I had never really been in that kind of environment before, where I'm playing with a bunch of people who have played together for a while. And you could just tell there was something different with our team that year, in a good way. Excuse me. And taking it from first put on those jerseys to the end of the season, our fan base, man, we had some fans. We got some real diehard fans out in Carolina, man. Let me tell you, they are diehard, and that we love that. We vibe off that, right? There was a whole group of kids actually from a school who used to come to all the games, man, and they'd have their own theme nights, even though we would have military appreciation night and stuff like that. And they had their own theme nights, and they'd come out and heckle the other team and just cheer us on. Just that feeling, man, just that feeling of being a part of something like that in Carolina in the Greensboro Coliseum, and winning that championship in front of those fans, doing it for the city. Just an incredible feeling overall.
What was that feeling like when you said the fans were cheering you on and all that? What was that feeling like, meeting them and getting to know them?
Oh, it was amazing. It was an amazing feeling. They Craig the Leg chants, and I actually I've got one of them on film, and they're all doing the Craig the Leg chants, man. It was just, it's surreal. It's being a part of something that, who would have thought, I would have been in that type of situation, in that scenario, years ago. Just thinking about it. I played soccer as a kid, and I didn't know I was gonna be playing football, let alone kicking footballs professionally. And being around that and developing that kind of culture, there's nothing else like it, man. There really isn't. Once you get those Craig the Leg chants, there's no going back. There really isn't. It's unlike any other. It's a great feeling, and like I said, the fans make the game. They make it happen, and being around that and having that environment and being surrounded by it, and it's so rewarding. That's why I always love giving back too, because the fans always give to us. It's about giving back too, and having that kind of culture and being around that environment is just, it's a one in a million kind of chance, and I was able to achieve that, and it's a great feeling.
What was your time like playing for the Columbia Destroyer?
So Columbus, I went back to the AFL. So I was in the NAL, obviously, and before that, the IFL. And when I started my career, I was in the football league. And the Columbus Destroyers, man, I had to work for every bit of that job. I think we went into camp. I was invited out there by Matt Salk, who was the head coach of the Columbus Destroyers. at the time, and he invited me out. He said, Craig, you're going to have to compete. It's like, you're given this job. Even though, my background, a lot of kickers didn't have to compete at all, but it is what it is. I'm used to competing. I love the competition, and that's what makes you better. So I ended up competing against two Ohio State kickers, Drew Basil, who used to kick for Ohio State, and Tyler Durbin, who also, I think he did play 2 years at Ohio State. Great kickers. And then on top of that, there was also 3 other kickers that were there that I had to compete against. So there were 6 of us total. And we kicked for 5 days straight. We kicked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then camp started on Saturday. So we came early, we came a week early, and we had to compete for an entire week against the same kids for 5 days. And whoever was the best kid coming out was going to get the job. So I took it as a challenge because I had all my stuff in Carolina. Billy had signed me to Carolina. If I was going to be playing in the NAL, it would have to be Carolina because I signed the 2019 contract with them. And I told him about it, and he said, yeah. He's like, just let me know what's going on. And, if something happens, you come back here, you play for us. If nothing happens, you come back here, play for us. If something happens, then, I'll find somebody else. So I actually packed my car up, everything. I planned on getting a job. I packed my entire car up for all the stuff that I brought to Carolina that I had in my apartment. I packed up and I went to Columbus. Being confident in my ability that I was going to beat every single kid out there that was there. And I'm not gonna lie, it was tough, man. Those are some good kickers, but I showed out, man. I showed out. I had a great camp. 5 days in a row. A lot of guys were starting to not necessarily whine, but maybe complain a little bit because they were sore. And I'm the oldest guy there. I think another kid there, I forget his name, Kaplan, I believe, was like 10 years younger than me, I think. And he's like, man, I'm really sore. So I'm like telling these guys what to do, rolling out. I got the massage gun. I've got the rollers. I've got the voodoo bands. I got everything. And I'm like, oh, they're like, how do you do it? Because every day I'm just consistent. And some of these guys are getting sore. I was fine. After the fifth day, I was a little sore. I will admit that, but I could still go out and kick. You know what I mean? I wasn't I need a couple days off because I prepared for that moment. You know what I mean? I was prepared for anything that I had to go through, and was able to do that at a high level. And, I was really proud of the fact that I was able to go in there and do that. Cause like I said, everyone gets nervous from time to time, Ohio State kickers, but I went out there and just wanted to do my job and perform at a high level. And that's exactly what I did. So being in Columbus in that atmosphere and going through that, I was ready. I was ready to have a great year after that. And I did. I ended up having a really good year. Columbus was a great place to play, nationwide arena. We used to get 6,000 to 8,000 fans a game. Great fan base still, even though we're technically an expansion team. But the Columbus Destroyers used to be a really good team. I don't know if you know this, but Matt Nagy was the quarterback for the Columbus Destroyers. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
He is now the head coach for the Chicago Bears. So on our opening night, it was really cool that he actually had it for us, and they put it up on the jumbo. And he just said, good luck in the season. I'll always be a Destroyer. And it was really cool, man, for him to do that and take his time out of his day to send us that. So that was pretty amazing.
That's pretty amazing. What was your time like at the Massachusetts Pirates?
The Pirates, man, I wish we could have played that year because, COVID just really messed up a lot of things in the sports world. And that was another year I was really looking forward to. Just being on Massachusetts. They got a great ownership in Jawad and the Sanya team. We had a great team put together. And, COVID, they kept telling us the season's going to happen. And it just didn't work out like that. It was really unfortunate, but my time in Massachusetts, I was there for 3 months, and we were preparing as though we were going to have a season. And that's what I love about the ownership there with Massachusetts is they didn't know what was going to happen, but they made sure that us players were prepared in case it did. And my hat goes off to Jawad for taking care of us and letting us be out there and live out there, knowing that we didn't know what was going to happen, with the season, with COVID and what was going to happen, what was going to go on, what was going to transpire from the pandemic, and if we were still going to play with no fans. And it was unfortunate, but I had some time in Worcester, Massachusetts, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I made some new friends, obviously. I didn't really get to explore as much as I wanted to, especially Boston. But I think us players that were there made the best of the situation that we had. Even though there wasn't much of one, but I still was training. And I would go over at Holy Cross, which is a great university, and kick. Best grass field I've ever kicked on, to be honest. And where else? And Worcester Academy, I believe I was also kicking at as well. But it's just one of those things, man. It was just a bump in the road. It was just a little speed bump, and then we had to get right back for it in 2021. But 2020 was a very awkward and just crazy year for everybody in the sports world in general. And it just kind of put a damper on sports, and you have to really just take it with a grain of salt, move on, make sure you stay healthy. I think that was the biggest thing that I took away from the pandemic year, was making sure that I was maintaining my body. So I was ready no matter what in 2021. I didn't know where I was going to play, but I knew I was going to be no matter what. So I made sure of that.
Of course, as we are right now in 2021, are you playing somewhere, or are you a free agent looking to go into the NFL?
So I am an NFL free agent right now, and I also am playing in the Arena League right now, Empire currently. We actually are the #1 seed going into the playoffs, which starts on Saturday. If you guys want to check it out, it's on YouTube, 7:00 Saturday. Us versus the Carolina Cobras, 7 p.m. It's at home. So if we win that game, then we will host the Arena Bowl as well, which will be nice, and that'll be on August 14th. So not looking ahead of any games. So it's this Saturday we play Carolina Cobras, and we're hoping to come out with a win. But currently I'm playing with the Albany Empire. Had a great season, great regular season with them. Leading in a lot of categories as kickers. I think the only category I'm not leading in is field goals, but we don't really kick many field goals anyways, because we're usually scoring touchdowns. So other than that, man, I'm pumped. I'm excited. And NFL season's right around the corner. So obviously if I get any calls, my agent will hit me up, let me know of anything that's going on. And we kind of just go from there. We've had a few bites from the CFL. Nothing crazy, but no workouts to be brought in yet, but they're still going in. They're still in camp. So we'll see if teams are looking to kickers after camp. I've already had a couple training camps under my belt, so I know what's expected of me if I have to go in there mid-season. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the off season and hopefully getting picked up. And obviously I'm looking forward to this Saturday playing against Carolina Cobras.
Of course, as the 2022 season comes around, are you looking more at maybe making a run for the XFL with Dwayne Rock Johnson as the owner?
So there's a lot of talk that's going on with the XFL, and I'm not really sure what to think of it yet, because they're saying that it's going to come out in 2022, but I've also heard rumors that it might be out in 2023. So we don't really know. Like I said, it's the same deal for any league, right? Make sure you prepare yourself for when the time comes, right? So you don't have to get prepared. You're already prepared. And that's just the mentality that I've always had, and that's the mentality going into next year. I'm going to be prepared for any opportunity that comes my way, and I'm going to make sure I'm ready for it.
Of course, what preparation do you have to do going into once this season finishes, going into the next season, getting prepared for your next journey?
That's a good question. I have a strength coach actually, and Jay Banyas. I was also a good friend of mine. He works with me throughout my program to make sure that I'm physically ready, I'm mentally ready, and he puts together a great program every off season. And with him doing that, I'm able to maintain my body. We talk back and forth what we could do differently, what we could do better, what we can change. And we've been doing it for years now, and I think that's why at the age that I'm at, I'm playing at such a high level, because I'm taking such good care of my body. I'm maintaining. And I think that's important. The off season, we grind harder, of course, rather than being in the season, in mid season. And being in season, the workouts are much easier, right? Because you just want to maintain throughout the season, right? You don't want to get too high, you don't want to get too low. In the off season, that's where you really ramp up your workouts. That's how you gain that muscle mass and whatnot. And that's something that he helps me with daily. And I enjoy that. And I love the things that he puts together for me to achieve. And he sets goals for me, and I set my own goals, and we work really well together. And that's another thing I think that separates me from the rest, is that I'm constantly working. There's always something to be working on. There's always a way to get better, whether it's watching film, doing what I need to do in the weight room, getting stronger, faster, being more consistent, and constantly just perfecting my craft.
Of course, who are some of the players that you look up to during your career?
I would say during my career, the biggest one would be Dan Bailey, who used to kick for the Dallas Cowboys. Just consistent, always consistent. He had a couple rough years, and personally, I mean, this isn't in the media or whatever, but I think it's because he had that injury, that big injury that he suffered. And I think he just didn't come back from it fully. So then he started to decline. But before that injury, he was money. He didn't have the biggest leg either. That's the thing. I do have a big leg, and I try to make sure that I'm as accurate, as consistent as possible, having that big leg, because at the beginning of my career, that was one of the issues that I had, is I had a really strong leg, but I wasn't as consistent as I am now. And I still feel like I'm getting better. So it's just about really honing in on your craft and really looking at things a different way, and talking to my kicking coach, and just nitpicking everything. It's like splitting, apples and oranges or whatever, and or splitting hairs, that we usually say. And it's just like these little things here and there that you see, and that you can change to, be better and get better every day. So Dan Bailey's one of those guys. He didn't have that killer leg, but he was just always so consistent. And I love that about him. And being a kicker, that's what you want. That's how you make your money, is being consistent. I remember, we would talk, I'd talk to my kicking coach, and we'd say, do we want to make 10 out of 10 field goals inside of 50 yards and be, 50% or whatever it is beyond 50 yards? Or do we want to be like 8 for 10 within 50 yards and be able to hit a 50-yard field goal? I'd take the 10 out of 10 within 50 yards any day. So that's just, those little things that you need to really look at and acknowledge, and just see the fact that even if you have a strong leg, great, right? You're good on kickoffs, maybe you punt. But as long as you can take that kickoff helmet on, and take that kind of, you have that same leg, but take the helmet off, put the field goal helmet on, and be able to kick field goals like that, that's something special.
Of course, do you also implement your game after Pat McAfee from the Indianapolis Colts?
Pat McAfee's funny. It was a great punter during his career. Funny guy. I know he's got his own talk show now. He's a punter. He never really was a kicker. So I don't really, I followed him just because, he's entertaining, he's an entertaining guy. But if anything I took from Pat McAfee, I mean, he was never afraid to lay somebody out. And that's kind of how I was, and I still am like that. We don't have as many tackles because the nets aren't up like the AFL was, but whenever I had the opportunity to lay somebody out, you better believe I'm bringing the hammer.
What advice would you give somebody in college looking to play college football and then move on to the professional level?
I'm glad you asked that because I obviously didn't play college football. I had the opportunity to try, even though I didn't make it. But if I could go back during the beginning of my college career, I would do it in a heartbeat. I would do everything that I could to just hone in on what I needed to do to get and become part of a college football team, period. So the kids out there that, are trying to, play college football, I would say, obviously focus on your grades because grades are important. But if you can get that scholarship, man, coming out of high school and just make sure that you're working hard and showing coaches and colleges that you belong there, that's priceless to me. That's an amazing accomplishment in itself because personally, taking away from the fact that I never got to play, man, that it bugs me. It bothers me. It sits with me because there's been a lot of times where I've gone to workouts and combines and had NFL scouts come up to me and say, man, you got a great leg. Where'd you play your college ball? And of course, I can't lie. I say I never played college football. And then the conversation goes from here all the way down here because I have no experience, right? I haven't played college football. I haven't played in front of, 80,000 fans. I didn't have that Division I experience. So to all the kids going out there, work as hard as you possibly can, right? Work as hard as you possibly can at what you want to do and the position that you're in, because you won't regret it. You will never regret it. I don't regret anything that I've done because I didn't know I wanted to play football at the beginning of my college career. So I can't really regret that. You know what I mean? I am where I am now because of my work ethic, right? So to all the college kids out there that are trying to get a scholarship or trying to play football, work harder than everybody else and it'll come, right? Work ethic speaks for itself. If you put that time and your due diligence, you put time in, you put the effort in, it's going to show on the field, right? It's going to show, and coaches are going to see that. And I think that's the most important thing is you won't be seen if you're not putting forth the effort. And with all these kids out there, how many colleges are out there? It's insane that if you want to go to a Division I school, you've got to work harder than everybody else. That's just how it is. And if you're not coming from that big background, or maybe you didn't go to a big high school, you got to work even harder. That's my mindset. I didn't play high school, didn't play college. I have to work harder than everybody else in order to be seen, right? So for all the college kids out there, man, work as hard as you possibly can. Shoot for the moon, and it'll come. It'll come. You will be successful if you put forth that work ethic. I promise.
What advice would you have professional players looking to get their start in professional football and players that are still trying to make it into football?
You cut out a little bit. What was that?
What advice would you give professional athletes looking to make their start into professional football and football players transitioning into going from team to team to team?
You have to have the same mentality. You have to have the same mentality. You have to go in there knowing that you're going to get the job. I couldn't have said it better earlier about my Columbus experience. I went to Columbus knowing I was going to get that job because I knew I was good enough to get it, and I was prepared. So preparation is key, for all other professional athletes out there. They know that, they know that you need to be prepared whatever kind of setting that you're going to be put in. Another thing, just real quick on that Columbus thing, onside kicks is a huge thing in arena football. Everyone knows that. I was the only one that was able to hit a consistent onside kick at that tryout as well. I forgot to mention that. And that's a big thing. Onside kicks are huge. None of the other kickers could hit a consistent onside kick but myself. And that's just separating yourself from the rest. So professional athletes out there everywhere, whether they're transitioning from team to team or they're transitioning from college to the pros, preparation, making sure that you are prepared for anything that comes along the way. And if you're prepared, you'll be ready for the spotlight. You'll be ready for the moments, and anything that's going to come in your way. There's going to be obstacles. We're going to have to fight through adversity, stuff like that. As professionals, we know that. So as long as you're prepared for all that stuff and you practice like you do, like you would in a whatnot, you're going to be ready. You're going to be prepared. So, I mean, that's pretty much it, man. That's the bread and butter, being prepared.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
So it's Craig the Leg 19 on Twitter. That's my handle on there. I believe Instagram is Craig Peterson 19. And then Facebook is just Craig Peterson.
Thank you again, Craig Peterson, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as you make your way to the NFL. I
appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the show, man.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Craig Peterson, for your interview, and best of luck.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.